Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Next Level Real Talk Podcast, where we have conversations on the journey of personal transformation and the pursuit of lasting peace and happiness with Sheldon and David.
Hello, welcome back to Next Level Real Talk with Sheldon and David. Great to have you back for another episode. We have a guest today. Reese will be with us. We'll introduce him here in just a second. So we're excited about having you back. Good to see you virtually.
Hey,
And
welcome,
have you
Reese.
back. And yep, there's Sheldon. And I will tell you real quick. Let me just do a sidebar. Sorry, I had to jump out last week. Had some family things happening real quick, and so I appreciate you guys letting me go take care of that stuff, and we're good to go. Life is good. It's been a rough week, but it's been good. So great to be back in the world and having fun. And we're excited about today having Reese. So Reese, let's just jump right into this. Who are you? Tell us about you and that great smile you have.
Who am I?
Whatever you feel like sharing. How's that?
There you go. Yes.
Single white male, 59 years old.
Start with the basics. There you go. Perfect.
To start with, I'm a good friend of Smitty's. We met several years ago. Wasn't a great time for me. It was an okay time for him, probably at that time. We met through a mutual friend, and we were both going through lots of stuff, mainly surrounding my divorce and remnants of his divorce, probably.
Yeah.
But so the most momentous part of probably what I want to share today is surrounding my divorce and kind of what led into that and what's happened since then, because things have I think most people would say things have turned around for me personally in my relationships, in the way that I view myself, and the way that I view others. And that's what I really want to share, is how that happened and how I worked to make that happen.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what we want to hear.
Definitely. Yeah, it's something that I think Smitty and I talk about a lot. And when we get together, it's heartfelt. We enter in our conversations at a really deep level that I think other people, they think we're lovers or something, because we laugh and we cry. It's true. We've been accused of that before.
People are going,
there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
Nothing wrong with it.
Right. Nothing wrong with that, but it turns out that's not the truth.
And we share a birthday. Oh, really? You share a birthday?
Right. That's right. You share the same birthday. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Right. We do share a birthday, but but more than that, we share a lot of commonalities. We share a lot of hurt. We share a lot of deep experiences that when we started talking and becoming friends, we realized that we're kind of in the same boat together, and that we needed really each other to get through this whole thing of life. And it's downs. The ups aren't so bad, but the downs are pretty tough.
Yeah. And Reese, one thing, as you've listened to our podcast before, but the cool thing is like Sheldon can talk, I can talk, Sal, Liza, Lucas, all of us that have talked on this before, we all have a different perspective, and someone gets something from you that they don't get from me or Sheldon or Liza or Lucas or Sal. So it's kind of cool to have your story, because somewhere out there you're going to touch maybe one person, and that's all Sheldon and I said. If we touch one person, boom. Or they're like, you know what? I get that. I get what he's going through. That's where I am. I want to listen to that again. And
although I get in my head and I'm like, hey, how many views did we get? And I start, you know, that's my ego thing, right? I start tripping out. Hey, man, nobody listened to that thing. We got to share that thing somewhere. You know, and Dave's like, hey. Dave's very good at grounding me back to, hey, what was our purpose? If we could touch one person, we're happy. And I'm like, okay, you're right.
And we're totally sidetracking here, everybody. I'm sorry, Reese, too. But one time he was going down that deep, dark hole, that rabbit hole of his rabbit hole is big. It's not a small one that he can slightly slip into. He dives into it sometimes. And he was having an issue, and my Sarah, my coworkers, walked in, and she had little tears in her eyes. She's like, are you okay? She's like, I listened to your podcast. on the way drive in today. She has an hour drive, and she's going through some stuff with adopting a kid or fostering a kid. And she goes, I needed that today. I needed those breaths that you talked about. And I called Sean. I go, hey, there's our one. It's okay, I'm fine. It's okay, I'm fine. So,
I'm good. Okay.
I got him out of the rabbit hole a little bit. Yeah. So no, whatever you say, and know that sometime as we go through this, if we ask you a question, you could say, I don't feel comfortable answering that right now. That's okay, because we're all getting that little world. There's some things we can't talk about. But if you're willing to go, we're willing to go wherever you need to go. So
Yeah.
This also could be the launch pad for Dave's divorce counseling.
There you go.
Maybe it'll be a Dave and Reese thing. I don't know.
Yeah, a new podcast. Which podcast am I listening to?
Yeah. I'll be your second, whatever you want.
Getting through it or something like that. What do we call it?
Right, exactly. I like that.
And then we'll pay Jacqueline to help us make sure we're doing the right thing. There we go.
Right.
Love you, Jacqueline. I always got to mention Jacqueline, Sheldon's wife out there, so she's awesome.
Okay.
Love her to death. So Reese, just tell us about where you're coming from. Obviously, you did a little bit of that, but what has helped you get through those things, like through the divorce and through the personal things?
I think I had to honestly, and I've heard you guys talk about this before. I kind of had to hit rock bottom, and I did. I was seeing a counselor for my relationship with my now ex-wife. My kids were in therapy, and nothing was really going anywhere. And literally, I'll just get to the worst first. My kids' therapist, my kids are, at the time they were 18, maybe 19 and 20, 21. Their therapist invited me into a session with them. And I had just been diagnosed with skin cancer. I had a squamous cell tumor in my face. And I was kind of grappling with what to do with that, and trying to digest what that meant, what I was going to do with that. And so I show up at this counseling meeting, and long story short, it turned into kind of a don't drink any more alcohol forever in your entire life intervention.
Wow.
Spearheaded by the therapist that was there. And my kids, both of my kids, staring me in the face and saying that they didn't want me to drink anymore. And then the rest of our relationship with each of them was dependent upon how I proceeded from that point on. And if I continued to drink, it was over. So,
wow.
And this hits me pretty hard because I really love my kids. And for a long time, my wife was kind of non-existent in that level as being openly loving. And so I always thought that I was living for my kids and the love of my kids, and really liked that. It kept me going.
Did you feel at the time when that happened that alcohol was an issue? Did you have any awareness at all, or do you think you were totally fine? You just had a couple drinks, no big deal kind of thing? Or did you have
somewhere in between? I didn't think I was an alcoholic, but definitely binge drank. And holy cow, when I, at that time, when I would binge drink and get really drunk, all my emotions would just come out. Like, I'd be sitting there and I'd just start crying. And I'm like, what is going on with me? Because I was self-medicating with that. Like, I couldn't get any answers anywhere else. I couldn't get any closer to my wife. I couldn't fix anything with my wife. I knew that. So I was using it to self-medicate and try to escape from that. But what I didn't realize in the process was I was escaping from my kids. I was escaping from my coworkers. I was leaving them all out in the lurch, and I was really depressed.
Yeah.
So at that point, when my kids are looking at me and saying yes or no, I just started to cry, and the therapist is like, she's like, kind of taken back by that. She's like, okay, well, so do you understand what your kids are telling you? And I go, yeah, I think I did. I think I do.
Yeah.
Hence the
And
crying.
They're like, no
between
shit.
jobs,
Can you see my fucking reaction?
I am crying.
yeah,
I'd be pissed. Anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
I couldn't even hold my head up. I
Yeah.
couldn't even look up.
Yeah.
And the therapist, she goes, okay, so what are you going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, knowing this brand new information, which it really wasn't brand new,
Mm-hmm.
I said, I'm going to try to figure out how to survive my cancer because I just got hit with that. And then I don't know. I don't know. And she's like,
Honest.
okay.
It was an honest answer, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want.
And I'm just crying. And then my daughter starts crying, and my son turns to her and goes, why are you crying? And she's like, I've never seen him like this before. So at that point, I like everything I felt like I was living for was gone. Like they're leaving me. I've got cancer to deal with. I don't know what that's going to turn out like. And I pretty much left there. I don't ever remember looking up once as I was driving home. I should have been pulled over for a DUI because I wasn't safe. I got home and I called my
just to know he's sober. It's just his mind was,
right,
it's mental drunk. Yeah,
right.
So, yeah.
But I wasn't safely driving because I wasn't paying attention to anything.
No.
You know how you're so emotional that I just somehow I wound up home, and I called my sister. She's my one confidant, my really strong confidant, and I told her what had happened, and I'm like, I'm done. I don't feel like living anymore. And she's like, then she got upset because she knew I was serious. I don't usually say that.
Yeah.
And she's like, is there anything I can do? And I'm like, I just need some time. So it was at that point, my low point, that I read a couple of self-help books, and I still had the will to live, turns out, the next day when I woke up. So that's good.
Good. We're excited about that. So good.
But for one reason or another, I decided to stop blaming it on other people, other things, and look within myself to go, okay, how did I get this way? What's the state of my mind? It's like at that point still, if I ran into any emotional trouble or anything that was troubling me on that level, I would want to go have a drink. And I'm like, why is that? So I took a look at myself and stopped blaming other people, even my ex-wife, who she became, anybody else, and looked at myself. And
wow.
Did
those books help you to get to that point?
Yeah, it did. It did. And then it just kind of fed on itself. And when you stop blaming other people, and then I went to work on myself, and I met with my kids, and I'm like, okay, first of all, I'm apologizing for those times that I hurt you. So I came clean, and holy cow, my daughter was emotional. She's like, yeah, you suck. You suck then, and that really hurt me. And she said that. She's like, that really hurt me. And I go, I apologize for that. I can't change anything that happened then, but I can own up to it. And I can change what's happening now. And what I wanted to change was an open relationship, knowing that you love me. That's all I could do. Yeah, and put the work in to that relationship with both of them, my daughter and my son.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that as you're talking there, it's funny because I read an article in the paper this morning about owning up to it. Just like, hey, because you forget about what others, like that was their fault because this happened. I'm this way because you made me this way. It's like, no, that happened, but no, I am me. I need to be me. And real quick, let me tell you that news article. A Tennessee Titan employee, she's right out of college, did something, has a great job, did something stupid at a bar, got in trouble, and she resigned. She says that it's my fault. She goes, now I'm going to move on. I'm sticking around town, figure out what I'm going to do, but it's no one's fault but mine. And I need to move forward from here. I was like, wow, own up to it. Because what happens is they say, well, it wasn't my fault. It was the bouncer's fault. It was that guy's fault. They gave me too much alcohol. But I love how you're saying you owned up to it. And then that's when things started to work out better because you were more worried about you and couldn't control what other people are saying or doing, which is huge. So
that is such a hard thing to do.
Hard thing to do.
And then before you know it, I just felt better. You know, I was putting my energy into repairing my relationship with my kids, starting to think about dating again. That's a whole wild, different topic. But what I found was that, and I kind of interviewed the people around me that I worked around and my friends, and they're like, you know what? I go, I didn't even say depressed. I'm like, was I not a nice guy? Did I make you mad? Or was I an asshole? Was I the office asshole? And they all kind of look around at each other like if I say yes, will you?
That's a yes answer.
Yeah. Who's going to say yes first?
When they're looking at you, they're not answering. That's a
and
yes.
So I'm like, never mind. I have my answer. And I'm not too proud of that either. You know, it was the classic bring your unhappiness to work situation. And I wasn't always like that at work, but the word was check with me on my mood before you start the day. Because if I was like, hey, how you doing? That's okay. And the day would be good. If I said, F you and get out of my face, then everybody knew to stay away from me. So, and that just happens, I think, but it shouldn't happen, you know, bring in your personal life to work and doing that, because really my work, was the only thing, it was one of the few things that helped me too, because, I get to help people in my work. And, I didn't realize how much that kind of re-energized me and gave me confidence. And it gave me a reason to live, basically, that I could help them. And they were so grateful. And they didn't judge me. And then therefore I must be good at something, you know, when you have no self-confidence after that. I had no self-esteem. I had no self-confidence. I had none of that. So work really helped me to kind of come back around to, and it's just the people that I'm able to help. So by doing that and not blaming anybody, and then eventually I had to forgive myself. That was the last key is before, and the whole time I'm like, I want to date, right? I'm divorced. I want to date. I want to go out. You know, this is great. This whole internet dating thing, it just sounds wonderful. And it's so easy to do. You know, that's what I'm thinking, you know,
Right.
Liar.
And, but I still was, I know, right? Lies. But I was still improving and still kind of finding myself. And, eventually, so it was a struggle, as it always is when you go online and you're trying to find somebody else, or you're just trying to find somebody else. You're looking real hard, and it wasn't fruitful. But I kept working on myself, thinking, okay, I got to forgive myself. And
can I ask, I'm sorry to interrupt. Where did you get that idea of forgiveness? I mean, were you still seeing a therapist, and were they helping you when you got that bombshell with your kids? Did you go back to your therapist and say, this is what happened, you know, and they help guide you, or were you kind of on your own?
I never went back to that place. All the therapists were in the same place.
Yeah.
And I kind of cast them off. Like I said, I read a couple of books, but
what were the books, if you don't mind my asking? Do you remember?
I do. I've got it here, but I don't remember offhand what it is. I can let you know later, or I can grab it. But
I'd be interested to know the title. You want to go grab it right now?
Yeah. Hold on.
And I'll talk a few other things. Yeah. I love how he's talking about just the forgiveness and the going. It's all about self, going into self.
Sure.
And
Sure.
and so, you know, guests out there, you'll see me kind of jot down. I'm writing notes and I'm making sure I'm not scribbling on my table. So because I like to take notes, and that's how I do the homework kind of thing. So excuse me if I kind of jot down and make sure I'm right in the right spot. But he's already got some great things that we can work on in a personal way.
For sure.
And so I'm telling you, just going in there to yourself, finding yourself, and
I'm just curious in terms of his journey, what exactly the impetus was to make that switch from outside, you know, blaming or whatever you want to call it, from it, you know, and it sounds harsh, but it's kind of like that victim mentality. Woe is me, the world is happening to me too. I have some responsibility in this. Yeah, I'm part of this whole dynamic. What is my role, right? And then switching that framing, that perspective, whatever you want to call it. And it sounds to me like, you know, he didn't see the therapist, so, you know, or any therapist after that.
Yeah.
So he kind of did it on his own, and he said he read a couple of books. So that feels like that's fairly instrumental in that, you know what I mean? Something planted the seed somewhere.
Yeah.
Right.
Somewhere in there that planted it. Yeah.
Something planted that seed that said, hey, maybe you ought to look inside versus stop looking outside.
Yeah. All right.
It's the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah.
4 Agreements.
Yeah.
Okay.
Powerful. So simple. Awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
And we'll put that guest. Go ahead, Reese. We'll put that on. We'll put that in the little thing at the bottom. When we actually have it. So make sure you look at that. And there's a couple books we've had out there. So make sure you look at that, and because obviously that has helped you through it. So tell us about that.
Well, after I read that, then I realized there's nobody to blame but yourself. So you have to take ownership of what's happened, and it is simplifying things. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated once you start with yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. And, and then I kind of took it from there. I don't know if you know, forgiving yourself is really in there, but I realized at some point that I needed to forgive myself. But I had some work to do before that. I needed to repair my relationships with my kids and show them that I wanted to be a part of their lives and communicate with them, because at that time they're going different directions, different states, all that kind of thing, and that makes it harder to stay close to them too.
Yeah. Was stopping the drinking hard?
Yeah, it was, in the sense that if I came up against something emotionally trying, then that's when I wanted to drink. Sure. So I had
going through a ton of things that were emotionally trying at the time. So probably a lot of those triggers, if you will, or keys that said, hey, you know, grab a beer, grab a drink, whatever, right? That's probably happening a lot to you, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, a lot. And it's kind of funny, like I would be in a certain neighborhood and I'm like, I know exactly where I want to go, you know, and maybe I could pull that off, and I'd talk myself into it, you know, about going to certain places. So in the end, I needed to avoid those places. So I just avoided that. It's like being hooked on drugs, and that was my dealer. The dealer was a couple of these bars, and I couldn't get anywhere near there. Otherwise I'd be sucked in, and I would drink until I was emotionally just distraught. So
huge effort on your part. Took a huge effort on your part.
Yeah, really. So in that way, that was tough. But
so you didn't do a 12-step or anything like that. You just sort of did it on your own. You just said, okay, I need to avoid those things because they're like triggers for me. They're going to suck me in. So you had enough self-awareness, it sounds to me like, on your own, that you just knew what you needed to do.
Yeah. But you have to bring that to light. And I did. I'm like, I had to look at myself and go, okay, why am I doing this? How do people perceive me as a good guy, which I think I am, but you know, they may not think I'm a good guy. And what led to that? I had to examine all of those things. You know, why is my relationship with my kids not as good as I think it is?
Yeah.
So I had to examine everything to kind of dispel the myth in my head that I was the world's greatest dad, and
everything is great with the kids, and
everything's great with the kids.
I'm awesome at work, and
my wife doesn't show up,
buddy.
but that's okay because everything's great with the kids, you know.
Yeah.
So
Did you have some support from friends or family? Obviously, your sister was your biggest support. Sounds like.
yeah,
Did you have any of that?
Yeah, I had another good friend who's, when I decided to overall split with my wife, he's like, hey, come stay at my place, and you can stay there for free until you kind of get your stuff together, and don't worry about stuff. Just come stay at my place. And
Wow, good.
I did that for a little while before I figured out that I needed my own place. But he was so helpful in helping me do that, and we could openly talk. His son is a good friend of my son. In fact, they're in Japan together right now. Good friends. A good friend came to help at that time, and I really, really needed that because I needed to get out of that situation. And because when you're in it, it's like all those wheels keep going. Those same things that you always do, like the bad things, like the relationship with my wife. It was always going back to something bad, and the relationship with my kids wasn't going well either. So to withdraw from that and kind of take a look at my life was a huge advantage.
Wow. Dave has the shirts here, the Wolf Pack, right?
Oh.
Which is, your pastor has.
Yeah. So the Focus 314, my church I go to, he kept talking about you got to have this wolf pack. You got to have people around you if you're going through things, no matter if it's good or bad. You got to have that wolf pack. And when he talked about that series, when I was going through the divorce, I had my wolf pack. I had my group, about 6 people, and I bought 6 shirts, a little more than 6 shirts, and I sent them out, got them out to them. And so I was like, you know what? These people were my wolf pack. I'm gonna send them a wolf pack. And it's funny because years later they're like, "What's this for?" I go, "Just want you to know, you were there. You were my wolf pack without me even knowing it. I had a wolf pack." And so, Pastor Darren, thank you, thank you, brother. It's rolling. So I'm using his tag. So I want to give him credit for it. But you got to have that wolf pack. I mean, it may be 5, 6 people. It may be 2 people. I mean, your sister and your friend were that wolf pack for you. And I think it's as we're talking about the wolf pack, it's that one being vulnerable to ask for help. That's a hard thing to do, saying like, I can't do this. I remember when I did it, it was like, I just told those 6 people and said, hey, this is where I'm going through. I don't know what's going to happen to me. Okay. It was the Saturday, then Monday, I told them first day back Monday, I said, this is what's going on. I'm not at home anymore. I'm going to go down a road. I may need your help. That Friday, boom, 6:30 in the morning, I said, I got the email about wanting to divorce. And I was like, so I was freaking, ready to jump out the window. No, I wasn't, but I was freaking. I texted all 6 of them. I'm not lying to you. Those people are not at school at 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning. School starts at 7:30. By 6:50 in the morning, they were in my room. One had a burrito for me for breakfast. And they said, hey, you need to go home early? Go home early. We got you. So I was like, whoa, what is this? I was like, and I look back like that was my wolf pack. It's like, like the bears are coming at me. Like, no, we're going to surround him. No bears are coming. You're not going to attack our buddy. Get out of here. And so with that kind of thing, that helped me. So with you having that friend to say, hey, just stay here. Just stay here. Because you don't know if it's going to be the conversation you're going to have or the house they're going to open up to you, or the conversation of just going deep. So, yeah. So that's awesome about the.
And it's not how many people, it's how deep you can go with them, I think, right? It's the level of that intimacy and connection and vulnerability, like Dave was saying earlier. So you had this friend who said, come over. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about anything. Just come over.
And the other thing is that made me think of that when you were talking about the wolf pack is I had another friend. So when I found out that it was really going down, I was at work. And once again, I guess I'm an emotional guy. I just started like breaking down, I just started crying. I closed the door to my office, and eventually people are like, what the F is going on in there? And they come in, and I call my buddy and I'm like, I can't work. I can't do anything right now. I can't even drive home. And And he goes, okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. And so he
Wow.
left his work and came and picked me up and took me home and dumped me off at home.
Awesome.
And
Oh, man.
What a great friend.
yeah, you need those. You're
Mhm.
right. You need the wolf pack.
Yep. He dropped everything to take care of you.
Yeah.
It's like, no, this guy needs me. I'm going now. And those are the ones you need, the ride or dies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's awesome. So how are things with the kids now, and how are relationships with friends, and how did that all affect it, and how is that going now?
Everything's going great. I know it sounds cheesy, but
No.
everything is going great. But
Mhm.
the root of it all is because I recognized what I needed to do and I did it. I worked hard at staying close to my kids. Didn't At first I was all worried about how I think their mom is the hero in this whole thing. I gave that up.
Mhm.
Their mom's
Mhm.
relationship with them is completely different. And I
Mhm.
used to always just in my mind just go back and forth like, I bet she's talking to him right now, or I
Yeah.
bet they're doing something
Oh my
together right
gosh.
now, which is total BS.
Yeah.
It was
It is.
BS, but it wasn't always necessarily happening, but I thought it was,
Yeah.
and I
It's the
had to give
brain.
that up. And when I text them, and for the life of me, I don't know if this is just natural these days, but I wouldn't get a return text for like 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And I know damn
Wow.
well that they're texting their friends
Every
every
second.
6 minutes. Yeah. The whole time. And they see a text roll in from their dad and they're like, oh, that can wait. I'm like, that's not right.
No,
That's just not right.
I need your text.
I
That'll
need your
spin the brain
text.
real good.
Yeah. I'm like, don't respond to me when it's convenient. Respond to me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And
those relationships are going a lot better. I send them pictures. I made a pact that while my son is still here, which he's still here in the state, that we have a dinner once a week. And it doesn't
Mhm.
always work, but guess what?
Mhm.
Most of the time it does. And when I ask him if he wants to have dinner, he's like, yeah, let's do it.
It's beautiful, dude.
It's
So
awesome.
just staying present in their life is really, really what
Huge.
my focus was. Just staying
Yeah.
present.
Yeah.
I didn't
And
have to be a superhero. I just needed to be present.
There. Yeah.
the one thing you were talking about, because Reese and I went through the same thing as we've talked before, but now it's even more prevalent. Of when the divorce is there, you start going like, um, I was doing the same thing. It's like, so are they talking? Is Ashley talking to her mom, doing more? Are the grandkids going over to everybody else but me? Are those? I went down the road. Sheldon knows it. I think I've told Reese this. I even went like, oh, those grandkids don't even know who the hell I am because I'm the outsider. And here I'm saying I'm the outsider because I adopted Ashley. So in my stupid brain, people brains are bad and they're good. The problem is they're bad when they're bad. And I'm going like, does she even care about me? What? Yes, she loves me. I know that. That's gone on. But I'm always like, okay, so they get to go stay over here. The grandkids are going here. The grandkids are doing this. They're not always with me. Or I'm gonna miss these kids are not gonna know who I am. Well, guess what? I go over the house or I'm at church and I already see this and she's running vroom, just a full board at me, big old jump. I'm going like, why did I go down there? Why did my brain do that? Because our brain does it, and that's where you got to start making that shift. If you're sitting there at night going like, "Oh, they're never going to know who I am," like Reese, my kids are going to walk away. They're not going to want to be with me. Yes, they do. Don't let the brain go there. You, as you just said, keep that connection. It may not be this close immediately. You were here, and it slowly made its way together to where now you guys are much closer. I know you're much closer because you guys
Yeah.
talk more than you did before, and you guys go do stuff. So, the one thing I would say out of that one is just slowly work your way back into that relationships, and just be honest with self. So, yes, careful with the brain. Fight the brain.
Yeah.
Okay, make sure you as we've talked before, the cloud, let it go. Is that a real thought? It's like, no, those kids love me. Let that negative cloud go, because it's going to be there. If you say you don't have the thought, you're lying to me. So it's going to happen. So let that just flow by. So,
And
okay.
the evidence really is in that one day I was going down the rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh, they're they're probably with their mom, and I think my son's there all the time. And I wind up talking to my ex-wife. We're still friends. And I'm like, hey, what are you doing with Dylan? She's like, Dylan? I'm not doing anything with him. Like, really?
You're like,
when's the last time you saw him? Like a month ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm ridiculous. It's what you're saying. But what I call it going down the rabbit hole. I need very little excuse to go down there, and then it can be at work, it can be anywhere. And if I don't realize that it's happening, then all of a sudden everybody in the world is bad, and starting with this person and that person, and I'm like, and then eventually I'm like, this is ridiculous, and it has nothing to do with these other people, and what I'm imagining has nothing to do, and has no real basis. Yet I am pulling all this other negativity down upon myself and withdrawing from whatever my situation is. And people are like, okay, it's time to leave him alone. But now I recognize when that's happening, and I stop it when it's happening. And I go, okay, I know that if I can just wait this out for a little bit and keep going through whatever I'm doing, then in about an hour, I'll be done with it.
Yeah.
Rather than having
That's awesome.
Totally envelop my whole day and my whole mood for the day.
And basically accepting the moment that you're in, going like, this hurts, this is bad. Okay, but I'm going to get through it and let it process. Go ahead, Sheldon. Sorry. Yeah.
I think the 4 Agreements describes it as a dream, right? That everyone has their dream world, and we're all in our own dream world. And right. And it's this, all the imaginings in the brain, and everybody's floating around in their own cloud of their thoughts and their dreams and their imaginations of what the hell's going on. And you're like, if you could just let go of all that and get back, you're going to see everything more clearly.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden people come up to you and they go, hey, thanks for helping me, and you're like, wait, you're the person I was mad at. How can you be,
Exactly.
So there's no connection. There's no connection to that in this dream state, except for me realizing that one should not really affect the other. It just shouldn't. And if I'm doing that, then I need to back out, wait for a little bit of time. I can be by myself, whatever, but it eventually goes away. It goes away after a certain amount of time.
How do you come to that forgiveness? How did that? You had said earlier that I think forgiving yourself was the hardest part, which I totally agree with. But I'm just curious. 4 Agreements doesn't really talk about forgiveness. But obviously you unpacked that, or you came to that. Yourself. Was there something that happened, or how did that journey happen?
It might have been I don't know. I picked it up from somewhere, and I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous, And then I'm like, wait a second. How am I going to be okay if I'm going to go out dating and want to have somebody in my life if I'm not okay with myself? And then so I just started kind of attacking that. And I also realized that there's a lot of things I can't change that happened in the past. So why am I still torturing myself over some of those things? Like, I can't move on without letting go of that stuff that happened in the past. I just can't. And I can't open myself up to somebody else in the future if I'm still living in the past and I'm still living with those demons.
Yeah.
And I slowly kind of did that, and I felt better. And then all of a sudden, everybody is like, wow, basically you're not an a-hole, number one, anymore. And I really see I see people are seeing me more as I want to be projected as a friendly guy who's helpful and loves people. And that just started happening. And they were coming back saying, like, what's going on with you? I'm like, what do you mean? Well, literally,
who is this, and where'd Reese go? Where'd Reese go?
What? So and leave him there. Leave the bad one there.
So you started seeing that feedback from your coworkers and people in your life randomly coming up to you, going, what happened?
Right. And then,
Wow.
and then the last piece really is dating, and I kind of relaxed on that whole thing. I was working on myself a whole lot, and then something out of the blue that happened to me, and I wasn't foreseeing it, and she approached me, and we've been seeing each other in a great relationship with all vulnerability and all love for about 2 years, over 2
2
years.
years. And she's
And
awesome. Rosemary. I'm gonna say her name.
yeah,
Rosemary, you're awesome, girl.
she's
And
listening somewhere.
Love you. Love you. she's become a great
that's
friend of mine
beautiful.
too, so I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So,
She's
so
a beautiful soul.
where can I ask what the circumstances were? Was it like, you know,
With her?
work or a restaurant or bar? Or,
Um,
not a bar, I would
that's
assume.
that's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
In short, she had a family and I had a family in the same neighborhood. We were kind of friends by distant friends.
Mhm.
Her husband at the time was a good friend of mine. So, and her kids are the same age as mine. They all went to school together.
Mhm.
So fast forward a bunch of years, I get divorced. She gets divorced. She got divorced recently. I've been divorced for almost 5 years now, and
Mhm.
she's been divorced for about 3 years.
Mhm.
But I became friends with her through my friend. So when they split up, I was there as kind of a support role for her.
Mhm. And you were a little further down that path because it had happened to you a
Mhm.
couple years before. So you were
Yep.
a little
Yeah,
further along in that
yeah,
whole process.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And she's very attractive and all this stuff, but it was always friends. I always thought of her as a friend, and I came to support her. And she's like, "Would you ever consider?" Because she asked me about my dating. I'm like, "Yeah, whatever. It's
Mhm.
hit or miss." And
Yeah.
she's like, "Well, would you consider dating me?" And I'm like, I was floored. I was
Yeah.
completely floored. And I'm like, and I think she thought that I didn't answer right away, as she thought that was a negative thing, but it was just
Yeah.
me kind of going, wait a second, I
Yeah.
haven't really thought of
Shock.
you in that way, and you're fresh off a divorce, and all these things were running through my mind.
Yeah.
But eventually, I opened my heart to her, and she did too, and we got through her divorce and the remnants of that, and now we have our own thing, and it's amazing. And I never thought I would be this happy again or sharing this much with another female individual ever.
Wow.
It's awesome. I love the
That is
relationship. So it's
beautiful,
awesome.
dude. um, uh,
Sheldon's thinking.
did you have any kind of the higher power kind of thing coming into this, or was it sort of just you really looking at yourself and taking ownership of what you needed to do and making these shifts, or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's more the latter. It's just
yeah,
me taking control. But
yeah,
my parents got divorced when I was 10.
yeah,
So, and they split, and
Mhm.
I lost pretty much all of that direction. So
yeah, yeah,
I thought about it, and I've always been self motivated, but that's
yeah,
had to come from within me. And
yes,
it's just about work. It's not about somebody giving you something or being privileged or being guided. I didn't have any of that.
yeah,
So,
Mhm.
um, I've always, the only thing I could always do was work on something, very
right,
blue collar,
right,
and good things will happen.
right. Roll up the sleeves and get to work, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And so that's more of it,
yeah.
not a higher power or direction from
Well,
anybody else.
I mean, that's beautiful, though. I mean, but I think that the courage, it takes courage, right?
Yeah, it
And
does.
Mhm.
it takes a lot of freaking courage. Am always just humbled and in awe, and just really appreciate your story, and the courage that it takes to do that, man. That is freaking wild. Uh, because it really feels like you were definitely, you know, divorce, cancer, kids are leaving, alcohol. You know what I mean? That's like 4 strikes. Fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah.
That's I'm sure that was the feeling at some point, right? You were saying,
Yeah.
talk about rock bottom, but that is like almost every single,
Yeah.
aspect of your life was getting pulled hard.
Right.
It was
Right.
gut
And
check time in a certain level, right?
right. You start thinking, what else could go wrong?
Right.
What else could go wrong? And I didn't have a lot of support there, obviously, from my ex-wife. And
Yeah.
so, those pillars, a lot of those were not there.
Yeah.
But
All your
some of
pillars
them
were
were.
good.
So
Yeah.
I was lucky.
And your health is good?
That's cool.
My health is good. Yeah. I got the tumor taken out of my face. I got radiation, and I go back and see the dermatologist all the time.
Yeah.
But cancer free and rolling. And
Yeah.
I drink now when it's fun. I have no need to. I could take it or leave it.
Yep.
And
it's not a crutch for your emotional whatever.
It is not a negative tool of dealing with emotional issues.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's doing great. I know I see him all the time, so it's great to see him.
That is beautiful, dude. That is huge. I do think like your body kind of is a reflection of some things sometimes, right? So when you're in that state emotionally, internally, when there's this conflict, when there's whatever, then your body reflects it sometimes, whether it's poor health in general, and sometimes people are overeating out of the same kind of coping mechanisms, right? Some people can just they call it emotional eating, right? Oh, I'm not feeling good, I'm going to eat or drink
drinking,
or do drugs or whatever it is, right? Buy stuff, people overspend, right?
Yeah.
People have crazy sex or whatever, unsafe, whatever random kind of things, and all of those things are these distractions to what's going on inside, right? Trying to just do something and make you feel better for a second, you know what I mean, for a moment, right? But not doing the fundamental work.
In the end, you're still, whatever problems you have are still there.
Yeah, because you're still there. You're with you.
How you do it.
Right.
You're like, wow, I just got high. That's great, but didn't change anything.
No, I'm not high. Fuck. Get right back there.
I tell you what. So you've given me a lot of things. Okay, here's the teacher mode. Okay, I'm so people, again, disclaimer: I tend to write things down because I'm older. I'm actually older than both of you. Dang it! Older by
barely.
2 months?
Barely.
2 months, Sheldon. 2 months on Sheldon. Dave. Exactly 1 year on Reese. So
exactly 1 year.
Old man in the room. I'll call myself the old man in the room. First off, glasses. I'll have 2 levels of homework. Okay, 2 levels of homework. Okay, it's not really homework. It's just something to think about because we're all not going through it. But when you get to that, you're going to hit rock bottom. Most of the time, some people are going to hit that rock bottom. And when you do, understand that that's okay in a way. No one wants to hit rock bottom, but like, don't go like, oh, I'm here, I'm done. No, we've all been there. The 3 people on this, Liza, Lucas, Sal, we've all been on there. Okay, so understand the people that have all been on this podcast. We've hit rock bottom. At that point, don't blame others. Look within, and then forgive yourself. Okay, so those we can put them somewhere maybe, but that's a non-homework thing. But when you get to that point of rock bottom, don't blame others. Look within yourself, and then forgive yourself. Okay, those are 4 huge steps. One thing that I think is like, what would you call this? Graduate level or PhD level? Ask
2.0.
others. 2.0. You said, I was like, wow, that's a hard thing to do. You went into work and says, what am I like? You talk about opening up and being vulnerable.
Talking about courageous.
That's beyond master's and PhD, and that's ultimate level. So if you can do that, say, I'm at this level, I'm open up. What am I doing wrong? And be willing to listen. That was awesome that you did that. So here's
12 steps has that, taking fierce inventory. Yeah, it's part of this, taking a fierce inventory of who you are and how your life is, right? And you did that. You didn't do it in a formal program, but informally with yourself internally. That's what you were doing. You were saying, who am I in my life, and how am I showing up in this whole world, right?
Right.
And ultimately, Anyway, I'm sorry, Dave, keep going.
No, that's good. That's I love that's how we work. There's no script.
Inventory. Take inventory.
Yeah, you're taking inventory and taking personal responsibility, right? You're saying, hey, I have a role in all of these things, you know?
Yeah. And you don't grow unless you look at it and say, wow, that's something I need to work on. How do you fix it? You grow. Okay. So
do you remember Wayne Dyer? That guy, he passed away.
Wayne Dyer.
He written like 20 million books, but he passed on. But he was in the early self-help mode in like the 80s. He was one of the starting, and he got very spiritual towards the end. But he was I remember I listened to him in high school. It's just weirdo, but had tapes of his, and I was just like pulling your own strings or something like that. But he had a story. And this was very psychology therapy. And a woman comes in and says, these 5 boyfriends, and they all suck and they all have these problems. Can I bring them all in? I want you to interview and try to get them to write themselves, because she was dating 5 guys and all of them had the problem. He's like, who's the common denominator? It's not them, it's you.
I'm talking to the one I need to talk to already. So don't bring them in. I need to talk to you.
That was hilarious. Yeah. He was very like, bam, he's just hilarious.
That's funny.
And then he had another one where the person was a nail biter, right? And they were, and she had been seeing a therapist for like 10 years, and electrocomplex and Freudian this and blah, 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 blah. And I remember electrocomplex was thrown in there because that's like a Greek myth, right? And then he just goes, I don't care. He's like, I don't care. I'm going to see it 3 times. And she's just like, what? Because she'd been seeing this other therapist for like 10 years. And he goes, okay, between this session and the next session, she's like, yeah. He goes, you can do anything you want. I don't give a shit what it is. Do whatever you want. He goes, there's only one thing you can't do. And she's like, I go, what is that? And he goes, you can't put your fingers in your mouth. You can't put your fingers in your mouth by your nails. I don't care what you do. You can freak out. I don't care what you do. You can do whatever you want. So you stop doing that, you're a nail biter. And when you stop doing that, you won't be a nail biter anymore. Just stop doing that.
I'll came back
and it was like,
there you go.
Oh. It was like this weird light bulb in the head, kind of thing.
I don't have to go for another 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Free visits.
Yeah.
All right. So homework. Here's your homework.
I'm sorry. That was a little time check.
No, we're good. Here's the homework. Okay. And very basic. And I love this because this is what we all need to do, is just check your mood, no matter, not just work, but any situation you're going into. If you're going over to family, is there some kind of thing like, what's my mood at? Am I having a problem here? Check my mood. They're not involved in that mood, so I need to fix it and move on. This is put your mood to where you're supposed to be going. And so Reese, I like that. You just check your mood no matter where you're at, and see where you are, and make sure you're okay with that situation, going into that situation, and not putting other stuff on people that shouldn't be put on. So that's a big one. And then
can I ask Reese a question?
Uh-huh.
Was it hard for you, because you were using alcohol as a coping mechanism, right? Yeah. So you have an uncomfortable emotion and you're like, fuck it, I'm gonna have a drink, right? Because I don't want to feel this. And then your kids tell you, hey, you can't do that. So now that's been pulled away from you, and you were saying you just stayed away from those triggering places, right? But learning how to sit with and become aware and conscious of emotions, difficult emotions, is really hard.
It was the hardest thing of all, probably.
Yeah. And how did you do that?
I don't know, because I was on my own, so I could have gone and drank my life away.
Yeah.
I kind of thought about my kids, and I thought about how they viewed me, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I can't do that anymore. I've got to find a better way to release my emotion and vent. I can't medicate anymore. Use this as a tool, because it gets me nowhere, and it propagates itself.
I feel like that is a testimony to the power of your love for your children.
Yeah.
Makes me want to cry.
Yeah.
Because it's like, and Jacqueline is like that with her daughter, Sarah. It's just like anything she has to do to be a better mom for that girl, she will be. Period. Didn't matter how hard it was. Didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
If she had to do it, if she had to look at something, she had to change something about herself. If she had to whatever, she was going to do it. She was fierce about that, out of love.
Yeah. And I think that's what turned it around. Yeah. And I talked to one of them about it. I'm like, I'm struggling. I just had a conversation. I said, I'm struggling right now because I miss you guys. I'm not around. right at the beginning, and I'm struggling, and any little thing makes me want to drink. I said that. Any little thing makes me want to run and have a drink. And I think it was my son. He's like, "Don't do that. Can't you see? Don't do that." And he's like, "You got to find a different way to do whatever you need to do, but don't do that." In other words, he's saying that's what broke us up in the first place. That's what he's saying. And he said, "I love you enough to where I don't want to see you continue to do that."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So love heals all things. That's what they say. Right. Love heals all things. Love casts out all fear, whatever. Right. So the power of love to, whether it's love for your kids, but eventually it also becomes reflected, love for yourself through the forgiveness of yourself. Right. That's an act of self-love. Right.
Yeah.
Like to heal yourself. I have to be able to heal myself and release some of my guilt, some of my shame, some of my anger, whatever my wounds are. Right. I have to be able to heal that and release that. So that I can be the best version of myself moving forward, right? To my kids and other people.
That's it.
And that leads into like the second thing I was going to talk about, what Reese was saying. He talked about step back. And we've talked about it before on this podcast several times. You just stepping back and looking at it from a outside perspective, going like, wow, what's going on here? And what is causing this, or
perspective.
Why is my brain
shifting
doing
perspective?
Shifting perspective. Yeah, that's the word, shifting perspective. So the two things is check your mood, not just going into work, not just going into it, just going into anything. Check your mood. Am I angry or am I okay? Not have to be in love. It could be love. That'd be awesome. But am I angry going in? If I'm angry at Reese and I'm going in to talk to Sheldon, guess what? I might be angry at Sheldon. Like, why are you angry at me? I didn't do anything, But just check your mood. Okay, check yourself, and then if you can, step back and see what you can work on and change your perspective. Okay,
and
shift it.
Can I add a little so that when you check your mood, I think for so many of us, I've said this before from the beginning of this podcast, especially dudes, and I'm not saying just guys, but for so many of us, there's a lack of like emotional intelligence about what our moods are. Right. So when you're checking your mood, if you could give words to describe what that is for yourself, because I used to say like, the only thing I could feel was pissed off. I'm fucking pissed. You know what I mean? Or kind of like I used to say, I said this in the podcast, like it was like lust, or, you know what I mean? Like she's hot, I want to go, it was like kind of like this very primal thing, or I'm pissed and I want to, fight this person or whatever, you know what I mean? Or whatever, right? There was kind of like guys will repress it till it comes out in rage, or anger or something like that, or they repress it in through something else. But so learning how to identify what that mood is, I think is huge. Giving words to it, right? Whatever that is. It's like, oh, gee, I feel frustrated, or I'm a little bit feeling uncomfortable because of whatever. I can't even give you examples because I'm not good at it. But
so in that first step, check your mood, and then identify that.
Yeah, try to give some words to it and identify what it is. Give some flavor, add some flavor to what that mood is.
Because then at that point,
that's hard to
happens.
do.
Yeah, if it happens again, you say, "Oh, this is blank." Whatever you thought that one was like, it's not just that's an emotion. No, that's A. Oh, that emotion was B, or whatever emotion you're having. Like now, oh man, I'm going through that anger emotion. I'm going through this emotion. So yeah. So when you check,
were you able to do that, Reese?
Identify it.
Huh?
Have you been able to
I take that even a step further. So if I'm having any negative thoughts or any negative happenings, I go, why do I have any reason to be negative right now? And sometimes it's because I'm tired. I'm just tired. In the afternoons, I get tired. I'm getting older. I get tired in the afternoons. I have a physical job pretty much. And so when I'm able to do that, I'm more like, okay, so that leads to, oh, I just told somebody to F off, and I walk right back in there and I go, I'm really sorry. This has nothing to do with you. I'm really tired right now and I'm not dealing with life very well. And it has nothing to do with you. The next part of that is when somebody comes to me and goes, hey, F off. Now I kind of take a step back and I go, oh, that's right. They're having some real personal difficulties in their life, like whatever it is. And they're going through something. And that's not really them. Yeah. So I'm not going to take offense to that.
Yeah. helps you to be more empathetic and compassionate because
with other people.
You got in their shoes for a second and said, okay, this is where they are right now.
Yeah. And almost always there's something going on. And again, it has nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
No,
it's something that's going on in their life, which I used to do constantly.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
So now I recognize it, own up to it. I apologize if I offended anybody. I tell them that's not the person I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's just flat not the person I want to be.
Dude, that's beautiful. That's so cool.
All right. It's been awesome, Reese. Thank you for joining us, bro. That's been so inspiring. I mean, even though we're great friends, I've learned a lot. So just so you know. So,
oh, really?
So just little things, and it's like, okay, cool.
That's awesome.
Things. So I appreciate you, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like going to appreciate everything you've given us. So
yeah, maybe there's some nuggets, that that they can use in things they're battling.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
I think it's that power of storytelling, right? We all have our story, and when we tell our story, it could be in theory the same thing Dave said, but you said it in your story is slightly different.
Totally.
And it lands for one person and didn't land for another. That's what we were talking about earlier, right? So it's great getting to meet you, Reese. I've never met you before, so looking forward to meeting you in person soon.
Yeah, that would be great.
Comes into town, we'll definitely go get a bite to eat.
For sure. Thank you for having the courage to share your story with us, because it's not easy. And courage to walk your path the way you have. It's awesome, man. It's really beautiful. It's super inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So do your homework. Okay. Do your homework this week. Got a little bit of homework, and that other piece about the, we hit rock bottom. If you're in that world, just listen to this podcast again. Think about there were 4 steps right there. Maybe we can put them in the little trailer down below, and then just process through life, and then always reach out. There's a wolf pack out there somewhere. You have one.
So find your wolf pack.
Yeah, find your wolf pack.
Figure out your wolf pack. Find your wolf pack. That's awesome. All right,
and have a great week. Keep that smile on, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, Reese.
Nice to meet you, Reese.
Sounds good, guys. Thanks.
Rock on, guys. Have a good one, and we'll call that a wrap.